Here's two divider boards that I built, and these are what we're going to use for the for using as a template or using as a form to put the sides and the bottom on. All right. Now, how to build those? The angles are very important, and the measurements here are very important. This what you do is, this is, I don't know, this is about 22 inches long, and you want it to run it on your table saw to where you have a board that's 8 inches, and you find the center, which is right here. I put a tick mark right there, and then you measure out 4 5/8 inches from that, and 4 5/8 inches from that on this side, and that'll give you a tick mark on each one of those, and that'll give you 9 1/4 inches. Very important, 9 1/4 inches this bottom, and make sure this is a straight bottom, and 9 1/4 inches here. Then what you do is you take a compass and you put your compass right on that tick mark, and you go up here to 60 degrees. That's the degree of this angle. All right, and you make another tick mark there, and then you line these up with a straight edge, tick mark to tick mark, and run a line there. Do the same thing here on this side. Tick mark. On this side, it's 120, but that's the reciprocal of 60 degrees. So you put a tick mark there, and you have a tick mark here. Run a straight edge and cut, and you have a line. Now, you need 2 of these. So you take 2 boards exactly the same as this. You put one underneath this one, line them up perfectly, and you can clamp them together, because we're going to cut them both at the same time, so they'll both be exactly the same. You can clamp them together, but a lot of times what I do is I just put a couple screws through, hold them together very nicely. Take a skill saw, cut that line off there, and you cut that line off there, and you end up, take your screws out, you end up with 2 of these, which is what we have here. We have one, and I have another one here. Then what you do is you take a top bar that we're going to make for this hive. We're probably going to make about 35 of them, and this top bar is 20 inches long. You want it 3/4 inch thick. Whatever you make these out of, do not use plywood. Use dimensional lumber for this. And the width here is very important. It's 1 3/8 inches. 1 3/8 inches is very important. That gives you once they start building the comb out, that gives you a bee space that the bees enjoy. All right. So, and then you just glue and screw this, because these are going to be permanent like this, because they're going to slide back and forth in the hive, and used as a tool to manipulate the hive. So you screw it down to this divider board, and it always stays in your hive. It hangs right on the edge of your hive. Okay, this is the setup. I want to first of all tell you guys that you have to go to Lowe's or any lumber yard, and to build this body, what you're going to need is 2 pieces of any kind of wood, pine, fir, or whatever, 1 by 12 by 8 feet long, 1 by 12 by 8 feet long. And then the first thing you do is when you get those home is you cut those 2 boards, you rip them exactly in half, so you have 4 boards that are 48 inches long, and you take 3 of them, set one aside, take 3 of them, and that's what you're going to work with to make this body. And the first thing is you take one of them and set it up on your table saw, and set your rip saw, set your table saw so that you can rip this angle here. In other words, it's a bevel. Set your table saw at 30 degrees, and with your rip fence in place, just barely take enough off to take that piece off, 30 degrees. Then you turn it around and put the beveled edge right here up against your fence, and first you set your fence at 9 1/4 inches, and then you, with your bevel edge, make sure your bevel edge is against your fence, then you make a cut, and what you end up with is a piece that's 9 1/4 inches from the long end of your bevel to the straight up end. Okay, as you can see now, this is the two follower boards that we made, and this is going to be our mold for putting this together. These are the 2 sides that you just cut. This has a bevel so that it meets flush here. I put a little screw right here on the bottom of this top bar to hold this. Same way on the other side. It holds that in. Okay. So now your 4th board that you had set aside, you rip that in half. So that's going to be 24-inch board. This is going to be your end. All right. And you put it up against here, like so. And you find the center of this and the center of the following board here, and you mark the center here, and you match that up. I've got a little square here. Okay. And you just push that up against there, and you come on this side, and you make a mark down this side of the side plank. Make a little mark on the top, mark down the side, and you do this same thing over here. All right. Bring a mark, make a mark, make a mark, and here's what you have. Here's your marks. Here's a mark. Here's a mark. And you go inside and you drill 3 holes. That's on the halfway mark of 3/4 inch, because this board's 3/4 inch. So you go halfway in and drill 3 holes. Then you come on this side and you do you route that out a little bit with a tool, so that when that screw goes in, it'll go in flush. Then you spread glue on this surface here, and you put them back in on your marks that you have set up. It's in perfect, it's right in the center, and you put your screws in, put one on one side, put the other on the other side. Make sure that this is up against there tight when you screw that together, and that completes your end. All right, it's very, very simple. So what we'll do is we'll screw this. I'll screw this in, then I'm going to turn it around and do the same thing for the other end. And other than the bottom board, this hive body is almost built. I've gone ahead and done a few things off camera here. I finished this bottom the way I want it, and put the first coat of paint on. And the paint I'm using is a barn and fence paint from Lowe's. It's good exterior paint for hives. And as you see, what I did was I put a bottom screen on it. It's a number 8 mesh wire. It's 1/8 inch, and I stapled the screen down to this edge here underneath this bar. But then what I did was I put these, I built these shims up here, screwed those in, because what I want to do is I'm going to put the bottom board on here, but I'm going to put hinges on the bottom board, 2 hinges here, and then a latch on the other side, so that I can drop that bottom board down to clean it and to monitor creepy crawlers in the hive. This space, I wanted this spacer put in here because I want the bottom board and the screen to be about a 1/2 inch distance, so that when those creepy things fall down on through the screen and hit that bottom board, then they will be less apt to crawl back up into the hive. This type of bottom board gives you the ability to clean, lower it down and clean it, and that keeps your hive better. But also a good point is you can lower it a little bit or all the way, and you can ventilate the hive if you get some real extreme hot weather in the future. All right, what I'm going to do is tell you how to install these legs. Very simple. You can see that bevel cut up there, and they're attached by 2 bolts. So here's another hive that I'm working on. While I was making the cut for the first hive, I made that same cut again and had all the parts ready for the second hive. So what I did was I drew a line from this point down to this point right here. All right, and traced a line there. And then I got my super duper bevel gauge and set my bevel gauge on that. And then I come up here to 2x4. One 2x4 makes 2 legs. So you find the center of your 2x4 and you set your bevel gauge on that. And trace that line. Okay. Then you make this cut right here with a skill saw. And that makes 2 legs, 1 leg for one side, the other leg for the other side. And what you do then is you measure measure from the tip of that 2x4 where you cut the bevel. You measure down from here all the way down your 2x4, 33 inches, and then you make a square cut across that, and that's your leg. Do the same thing on the other half, 33 inches, make a square cut, and you've made 2 legs. And this is just and that fits right up in there like that. All right. See that? And then you put 2 screws on the other side to hold it, and then you drill holes for 2 bolts to go through there to hold it. So that makes these legs removable in case you want to just set this hive down on something closer to the ground, or you can make these legs shorter or do whatever you want to by just taking off a little off the bottom. Here's the top bar hive finished. It's all painted, tops on it and everything. You can see the legs, how they're installed, through bolted. There's an entrance here, and at the other end on the other side's another entrance. Also there's latches to hold this. This is a bottom board that has hinges on the other side. It'll fold down. There's the latch that opens up the hood. Nice. What I did was this is the end board. From the inside of the end board, I ran another board across, and that was screwed in. I did the same thing over on the other side, and then creates the platform for the lid to come down on. I just duplicated this. This here is duplication of what's here, so that it fits down in there nice and snug. There's some braces in here, and I used lightweight plywood and that's the reason for the braces, because I didn't want this lid to be very heavy. One thing, this hive, the reason I made this hive lid lightweight is that this hive can be used for anyone who's physically challenged. The legs can be cut down so that the hive is low, and it can be opened up easily, and you can sit right next to it, and there's no lifting. When this hive is in full force, fully enclosed with bees and everything, most you'll ever pick up is probably 5 or 6 pounds. This here is this is how I started out. I put a kerf mark in here with a saw and drizzle a little glue in there and put a piece of comb in there, and that gets the bees started. Now, Now on this end, the entrance we're going to use is right here on the bottom. You can see it right here. And one of the things that I like to do is set your feeder up, your bee feeder up, if you want to feed them, near the brood comb. A lot of guys will put the feeder way back here, and the bees have to come from here all the way back there, because most of when you're first feeding, most of the food goes to the brood because they're making brood. All right. So what we've done here is that's just a spacer board, and this is a little board that I made, and these are just glued slats on here. And let me go over here. Sorry about that. And here's a fruit jar, and you take and punch some little small holes in there with a tack. Fill this with sugar solution, and then this goes down in there, and then you put your jar on there like that. You put 2 more on there, and this is your divider board. It's got a hole in it, a little tab to close up that hole if you want to when you're through feeding. Put that in there. The bees go in there, and they feed, and they come back out. They can fill the brood, feed the brood right there. So what I want to do is go over what I do with these top bars. As I mentioned before, for the first 6 or 7 bars, I put a saw kerf in here, put a little glue in there, and put a little strip of foundation in there. And they take to that, to make sure they take to that better, okay? So then, for the rest of the top bars, I measure in on each end 2 inches and make a mark across them. Same way over here. And then I take string, and this cotton string, and this is about 17 inches. So what I do is just double it up, and I heat up a little can of wax, and then I just dip this down and hold it by that, and dip that down into the wax like that, up to here, pull it back out, and just hang it on a little stick I have that I use for that. So let that dry. It doesn't take very long to dry. So then I take this and just separate these two. And what we want is we want the wax string 16 inches on here on center. Now this is not real scientific. You can take your stapler and set this on the 16-inch mark. Give that a shot. Doesn't have to. Try to get it in the center if you can. And you go over here and give that a shot, and then give it another clip in the center, and that's it. That's how you do it. You this is cut off here because we started out right at the cutoff. So here, then, what you do is just go over here with a knife, cut that off, and that's how it's done. Very, very simple. I'll do all the rest of these, and they take to this really well. Like you might be a little more accurate than that. That was a little off, but doesn't matter. They'll 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 stick that comb right on there, boy. They really attach it, and so it works really well. They go for it. This works out really well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. This kind of finishes the hive, and really works well. It's a hive that the bees love. Thanks for watching.